basically this is natural approaches to fibromyalgia, and basically it's 25 years of me finding out what works and what doesn't. So I really want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for coming, because I know life can be really busy for everyone. And I want to make this very clear. This is not a prescription. It's not a cure-all, and it's definitely not meant to replace medical advice. So what I'm trying to do here is just basically take what I've learned, what's worked for me, and just share some ideas to help you feel better too. Now, I will try and keep it short and brief, because I know the brain can only absorb as much as the behind can sit. But I will, I will take your questions afterwards. Anyway, if for some reason you have to go, Ellen, no problem. I'm just going to keep on with the slides, and then that way who's ever watching recording can stay with us.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me. I've been dealing with fibromyalgia for about 25 years, and it took a long time for me to be diagnosed. I also suffer with the effects of other injuries that I've had to my spine, my neck, and brain injuries from too many concussions. I used to train horses back when it wasn't popular to wear helmets. So I was a mess, would be an understatement. Pain was off the charts at times, and I was often scoffed at by doctors for years as, quote, all in my head. And I was put on many prescription drugs that were just not helping, and they were actually making me worse. In fact, some of those drugs were removed from the market due to their damaging side effects. So some of the drugs that I was on were experimental, and they are no longer available. So they told me there was no cure and to seek out support groups. Well, that was depressing. When I went to the support group meetings, everyone was either in a wheelchair or on a cane, and they talked about how much worse they were getting and how their meds made them feel even sicker. During this meeting, I met many people, and they're like, oh, well, it's going to happen to you. You're going to end up just like us. There was not even, here's some things that may help. Here's some things that you might get relief. It was just the most depressing room I have ever been in. There was probably 50 to 70 people in this room. And that is heartbreaking. And they were like, it happens to everybody. You're just going to go downhill. You might as well accept it. And I got up and left in tears, because I'm like, I don't want to go down this road. I don't want to be like this. I was in my mid-20s. So you can imagine how upsetting the, quote, support group was. I had finally said enough, and I went to my neurologist. And this neurologist, and where we're at, has really, really good doctors. And he is actually one of the most, I think he's retired now, was one of the most referred to in the country. And I just went in there, you have your typical appointments, and I said, I want my life back, and I'm willing to do whatever it will take to do that. And I knew if I didn't do something, I was going to die. It was just that point to that point. And later in the webinar, I'm going to share with you what I told him and his response. And I think you all are going to love it. So it's kind of interesting. All right, so let's So we're going to go over a little bit for what is fibromyalgia. I know some people on here are very familiar with it, but other people may be on here just to learn so they can help people that they know. But fibromyalgia is one of the most common chronic pain conditions affecting more than 5 million women and men in the United States. It obviously seems to affect women more than men, and we're not sure why. Fibromyalgia pain is different than other types of pain, and it can be an unusual pain that's chronic, widespread, and often accompanied by tenderness. I need to get my mouse ready. There we go. What are the symptoms of fibromyalgia? Well, you have deep muscle pain and soreness, and it's that really deep kind of pain. It's a radiating pain. It can run down like the arms and the legs or across the back. Stiffness, which can be a result of the pain and the lack of movement. Extreme debilitating fatigue, and I think this is one of the #1 complaints, is it can be so devastating. That's the fatigue where people can't get up off the couch to do much, can be just very devastating to their life. Difficulty thinking or brain fog, and it affects their daily home and work life. Sensitivity to touch. It can be really painful to be touched in certain areas, almost like someone's pushing on a really severe bruise. Stress. And the stress is like, is it the chicken or the egg kind of thing? What came first, the stress or the illness? Anxiety. Anxiety, is it caused by the illness or what the illness is doing to our lives? We're not sure, is it a precursor or just an after effect? And depression, I believe this is a byproduct of the problems that this debilitating illness can cause in one's life. Depression is the end result with almost everyone I've spoken to with this. I've never come across anyone that said they didn't battle depression with this. And headaches. The cause of the headaches is unknown. We just know that they happen more frequently. All right, so go on next. Oops. Okay, describing the pain associated with fibromyalgia. Chronic. The pain usually lasts a long time, at least 3 months or longer. That is probably one of the requirements to be diagnosed, as there is no blood test for this test. Many people experience fibromyalgia pain for years before being diagnosed. And many people suffer a long time before an official diagnosis is received, and even then, many face ridicule as if it's not real. And I think you'll come across some people that will say that they faced ridicule. Widespread, the pain is felt all over in both the upper and lower body parts. However, many people with fibromyalgia feel their pain in specific areas of their body, such as in their shoulder or the neck. And I personally had it radiate down my arms and legs. And this might be a little graphic, but when asked to describe the pain, there's been times when I'd say it's like someone took a hot knife, stabbed it, and is just filleting down my arm and leg. And I know that sounds graphic, but that's pretty much how it feels. Tenderness. Even a small amount of pressure can cause a lot of pain, and it doesn't really take much of a poke on a person that has this to cause intense pain in a certain area. Possible causes of fibromyalgia. Now, while the exact cause of fibromyalgia is unknown, recent studies suggest that changes in the central nervous system, such as the brain, spinal cord, and nerves, may be responsible for the pain. Fibromyalgia is thought to be the result of overactive nerves, and these nerves may be responsible for the chronic, widespread pain and tenderness that many people feel. One cause could be trauma, a physical and or an emotional trauma. A car accident, like a severe stressful occurrence, etc., have all been linked back to the onset of symptoms. That seems to, when they trace back to when these things started, it seems to be often right after some type of trauma. Infections, either a long illness or an injury. There is some evidence to suggest that certain illnesses can act as a trigger. The body has gone through a long illness or a long recovery from injury. Autoimmune diseases, it often has similar symptoms. People with disorders such as rheumatoid arthritis or lupus are more likely to also be diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and the symptoms can be eerily similar. And this can also delay proper diagnosis. Family history. Does it run in the family? The genes you inherit from your parents may increase the likelihood of developing fibromyalgia. So this is still a new field, and genetic testing is still really new. So far, there's no genetic test for it. We just simply don't know if there's a biomarker for it or not. But just like any other disorders, there may be a slight genetic link that makes you more predisposed to it. Let's talk about the different treatment options for out there. Well, medications, and this is the most common form and often the first thing that patients and their doctors will reach for. The person goes to their doctor, and then after a lot of testing, time, and suffering, and agony of waiting, a diagnosis is given. And the first thing the doctor does is what he's trained to do, and that's what he needs, they often will do, is just reach for the latest medication to treat the symptoms. Virtually nothing is said to treat the disease because it is viewed by the medical community as incurable. Therefore, they will only treat the symptoms. There's some other non-invasive treatments, and many have seen great relief using these more holistic methods of treatment, up to and including complete elimination of pain. And that would include acupuncture, chiropractic and massage therapy, meditation, exercise, nutrition, which includes what you eat, and then any supplements. Now, let's talk about some different types of medications being used to treat fibromyalgia and some of their benefits. The FDA has approved 3 drugs to treat fibromyalgia. Now, the antidepressants Cymbalta and Savella, plus, to me, the very scary anti-seizure medicine Lyrica and Neurontin. And if any of you know anyone who's gone through like a severe trauma, I know someone who was in a plane crash and had to have multiple surgeries and was on Neurontin for the anti-seizures due to some of the brain injuries he incurred. One of the first drugs they tried to get him off as quickly as possible was Neurontin, because even then, and this is recent, the doctors knew the dangerous side effects of being on anti-seizure medicine for any length of time. Yep, some doctors are prescribing it for fibromyalgia patients to use from now on. And that to me is very frightening. Your doctor may prescribe other drugs that aren't specifically approved for fibromyalgia. Medicines like these are sometimes called, quote, off-label medications. Like Neurontin, it's not designed for fibromyalgia patients, but some doctors do prescribe it off-label. And it comes with a really long list of scary side effects. So it's only advised to be used for short periods of time. Benefits: short-term help with depression, some better sleep, and more energy. Some reduction in pain and stiffness. So there are benefits, but to me, the side effects are pretty scary. Now, let's talk about the side effects. All drugs, no matter how benign and how safe they seem to be, have side effects. And sometimes those side effects are worse than the disease. So I want to go over these. And I'm not against medication 100%. If you're getting relief from it, by all means, stick with it. But I just want to make sure that you're aware that all medications do come with side effects, and know when to seek treatment. Life-threatening allergic reactions, please get to the ER right away. Do not delay this. Don't try to self-medicate. Some of these reactions are extreme, and if you delay it, you could be risking your life. So please get to the ER right away. Swelling of hands, legs, and feet. A lot of people complain of swelling in their ankles and feet. Irritability, anxiety, and panic attacks. Sleeplessness and fatigue, headaches, dizziness, blurry vision, tremors, depression, and thoughts of suicide. What's frightening to me is some of these patients, as they have to take them off of them due to damaging effects, some of them have tried to commit suicide, or some have gone out and become very violent. And we all know the ramifications of that. So I find that extremely terrifying, that some people are going through those terrible thoughts of suicide. Often these drugs cannot be combined with drugs that treat other serious diseases like high blood pressure, diabetes. You cannot mix them with other anxiety and depression drugs. And you cannot take these medications with prescription painkillers. So there's other really serious health issues that need to be treated with medication, that you cannot take these medications for fibromyalgia. You cannot mix them. So forget them using them if you have an injury or surgery, or being treated for some other health issues. So if you end up getting injured or you need surgery like on your knee or your hip, they're going to have to step you down off these medications before they can do the surgery, so you can take the painkillers afterwards, just so you know that. And it's a vicious cycle. And so a lot of people ask, well, why prescribe antidepressants? Well, doctors stumbled upon the effectiveness of antidepressants for fibromyalgia patients when the disease was still not really well known. It seemed that the patient showed some improvement, but kind of have to ask if this was more of a result of a slight lifting of one's mood, just really after suffering so long without any help from the medical community. And speaking from my own experience, when I talk to others, the antidepressant drugs' helpfulness are really short term. And unless your brain has that chemical imbalance, these drugs that are designed to help with, the drug won't work. And the side effects make them, to me, less than ideal. So I am not in favor of using these types of drugs, as though it may temporarily mask the pain. It really does nothing to improve it. And here's an interesting thing that I've learned over the years is pain dullness can be temporary, but only to return with more frequency and more intensity. And what happens is when we take, say, prescription pain relievers or drugs that are trying to dull the pain, the body will notice that. And guess what it does? It grows more pain receptors. It actually makes our nerves more sensitive because the body uses pain when there's a problem to try to immobilize us so it knows, so it has time to heal. You know, if you twist your ankle, it's going to swell and the pain comes up. That's the body saying, hey, you need to get off of it, get some ice on it, get it elevated, and I'm going to work on healing it. But you got to get off of it first. So I'm going to send a lot of pain to your brain so you will get off of it. When you take drugs that inhibit pain receptors, the body's just going to create more. And then when you stop taking that drug, you're now extremely oversensitized to pain because you have all these pain receptors in your body. So it's a very vicious circle and a very dark road to go down. So I just want to kind of bring that to everyone's attention on why some people feel more pain afterwards. Okay, holistic treatments for fibromyalgia. Acupuncture. Acupuncture is really helpful at getting the muscles to relax and improve the flow of energy. I know the thought of being stuck by needles can be really scary, but it's really quite safe, and it's actually an accepted practice of pain relief. And really, many insurance companies are now covering treatments. So that's really getting more acceptance here in the West. Chiropractic and massage therapy, helpful. I use chiropractic care a lot. It's really helpful to relieve joint and muscle pain because you're realigning the spine and the neck to kind of get these tight muscles to release. When you're in pain, you tend to kind of, quote, hold yourself in kind of a twisted, and you hunch over and stuff. And this causes misalignment in the spine, in the neck, and in the shoulders, and can really cause more pain. So I highly, highly recommend finding a good chiropractor. And really the best way to find a good one is ask your friends, ask your family, get on social media, and just ask, because the best way to find a good one is through recommendations. And if you find one, you don't like him, or you don't like the way he does it, go look at another one. They all have like a different method of how they work. Massage therapy can and is often used in combination with chiropractic care. And oftentimes chiropractors will have massage therapists in their office. Meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, really helpful at getting the body and the mind to relax, as well as gently stretching tight muscles and relieving pain by moving the body. I can't stress this enough. Movement is essential to start feeling better, and exercises like Tai Chi and gentle yoga are really perfect for fibromyalgia sufferers. Meditation is great at helping the mind relax and calm down. Dealing with all of this can really stress you out, and meditation can really help you recenter, focus, and relax. And finding a good instructor who understands you and maybe what you're kind of going through is really important. And you might even actually meet other patients suffering just like you and kind of learn to heal together. Exercise. This is crucial to relieving pain and stiffness. You'll gain more energy, you'll improve your mood, and I cannot stress enough how important getting up and moving is to feeling better. I know it's hard when you're hurting so bad and you're exhausted and you're depressed, but I assure you, the more you sit around, the worse you will feel. You must get up and move. You don't need to train like you're running in a marathon. If all you can do is walk to the mailbox and back, that is where you start. And then you slowly build by adding a little more to your exercising, either daily or every few days. I have actually coached fibromyalgia patients, and I've had doctors and even my own husband after major surgery come to me, and we work on how to do this. There's actually a process to it, and I actually learned it don't laugh, rehabilitating injured horses. So we find a starting point, and it doesn't matter if, as I said, if all you can go do is walk out your door a few steps to your mailbox, and that's all you can do, and then you got to come back and you're done for the day, that's all right. That's where we start. But you got to have a starting point. And if anyone is interested in learning that process, you're welcome to get with me. It's not a hard process. It's not detailed. It's just a little common sense, and I'd be happy to share with how we do that, especially after patients with surgery and stuff. Stretching is also very important. I really feel that lack of flexibility is very aging. You need to stretch those muscles, or they will just continue to stiffen and shorten up, causing even more pain and stiffness. And stretching really does help relieve pain. Nutrition. Here's where we get into the diet and supplements. Studies are showing that there may be deficiencies of certain nutrients, and sufferers require a lot more of certain nutrients. It's really best to give the body what it's wanting. So nutrients that it needs, if it has enough of what it needs, it will begin to heal itself. And you really want to work with your body and not against it. So, and I'm always amazed at the body's ability to heal itself if it has the right nutrients it needs to do so. And so if you're trying to recover from an illness like fibromyalgia or any type of illness, or even recover from an injury or surgery, you're going to need these nutrients in much higher doses to carry out the repairs than the average person. And I'm a visual person, so I always like to picture things. Picture this, like when you repave a road, it takes a lot more blacktop to fill in the damaged areas, like the potholes and the cracks and stuff, than it does just to resurface a nice smooth road. It's just going to take a lot more, and nutrients are the same way. Your body needs more nutrients in higher doses to fix what's not working right than a body that is basically healthy and is just running evenly. And I think when people realize that, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. So let's talk about the role nutrition plays and how you feel, and how it may really actually help to relieve your symptoms and hopefully allow you to lead kind of more of a normal life. Now, remember back at the beginning of all of this, I talked about how I kind of went into my neurologist's office and told him I'd had enough and I wanted my life back and off all the drugs, and how I was willing to try anything. Well, I did that, and that took guts. I'll tell you that. One day, a very kind and knowledgeable lady asked me this one short but so powerful question that really changed my life. She asked me, have you ever considered the role nutrition plays in your health and how you feel? And I was stunned when she asked me that, because being a horse trainer and being, around livestock and stuff, and working with vets and stuff, I was reminded how important nutrition was to these animals' health. Veterinarians are taught that the role nutrition plays in animal health much more so than medical doctors. And they really understand the good food and supplementation. Sorry, Jill. I just saw you. Hi, Jill. I just saw you ringing in. But veterinarians understand the role nutrition plays in animals so much more. And they understand the role of good food and supplementation, especially after the animal is injured or ill. And I can almost guarantee you, if anybody out there has pets, that if you have your dog or your cat get sick and you take it to a vet, one of the very first questions a vet will ask you after examining the animal is, what are you feeding it? Because if a pet's diet isn't ideal, the vet will, quote, educate you very quickly in the proper food and feeding routines, as well as proper exercise. And I think most of us can relate to that, because veterinarians, again, they understand the role of nutrition. And here's an interesting fact a lot of people don't realize. In fact, pet food sold in the US has to meet certain federal minimum standards for nutrition. And I find that extremely amazing. So even the cheapest store brand, low grade pet food actually has to meet certain nutrition standards. before it can even be sold in this country. And I wonder why people food doesn't have to meet certain requirements. So back to my visit of the neurologist and what I told him. I walked into his office. Of course, you have to wait an hour and a half to see them. I told him all these different meds we've been trying were just not helping me and actually making me feel worse. And he nodded and agreed. Yeah, they're not helping me. And he started to say he could write me another prescription for this new drug, still in trial studies, to see if it would work. And I stopped him and I said, no, I'm going to do what I think will be very helpful. And I think I'm going to go the nutritional route. And I believe my body was lacking critical nutrients to fight this. And I really just wanted his help to step down off all the drugs, because I knew I couldn't stop taking them cold turkey. You can't just stop taking these drugs. You actually have to do a step down process. And that can take several weeks to months to do that. He sat back and laughed at me. I mean, out loud. He scoffed at me. He berated me. He dismissed me as crazy, uneducated, and clearly out of my mind. Quote, those are words he used. He said, "You are out of your mind. I don't know what's going on with you, but you are crazy." That infuriated me. He treated me as if I was just like some idiot that knew nothing and was completely incompetent. So probably if you guys were in the same place, you'd probably feel the same way. Something deep inside of me rose up, and I literally stood up to him, both verbally and literally, and asked him, "Are you going to help me or not?" And he says, quote, "Oh, I'll help you step down off the drugs, but you'll be back in less than 6 months begging me to write you a prescription for something to help you." I said, "Challenge accepted. You're not helping me any. So I decided to take back my own health, and I'll see you in 6 months." So short time, 6 months goes by. I kept my appointment. He walked into the room with his RX pad in hand. You remember back then, they still wrote prescriptions on pads back then. And he was kind of like flipping it in a taunting way, real smug. And you should have seen his face when I told him I didn't need his stinking meds anymore, and how much better I feel without them and without his help. And that I wouldn't be needing his services anymore. And I only came in to show him how I found out what was working and what little he knew. He wanted to do a thorough re-examination. I said, that's fine. And afterwards, he was shocked. He sat down flabbergasted and said he had never seen a fibromyalgia patient improve like this. He told me he was actually writing a paper on the fibromyalgia and all the different things that he had come across with all his patients. And he actually admitted, I should have got it on tape somehow. He admitted that I might be onto something about the nutritional deficiencies. And when I told him about certain nutrients that I was adding, so I can't tell you how good that felt. But so somewhere out there on some paper, there's a mention of me and my success, but I'm really sure it's been overlooked and written off as a fluke or a misdiagnosis. You have to remember, there is no money in cures, only expensive treatments. And drug companies do not want to see people get well. There's no money in it for them. And so my success will not be studied in any thorough way because they can't make money off of me. And it's the same with cancer patients or anyone being treated. And I find that so sad. I mean, we know the truth, but I'm not against medications whatsoever. I'm against what they do to people and some of their side effects, and not combining it with other treatment options. I think that's doing it only one-sided is just not effective. All right. So what specifically am I and many other people are doing? Well, I'll share with you what I'm doing, but before I get into the details, I want to stress that there are these really important tips. Please, if you are taking any kind of medication, don't stop taking your medication without talking to your doctor. Many of these medications just cannot be stopped cold turkey without really dire consequences, and you must go through a step-down process if that's what method you want to choose. And me sharing what I do is not a replacement for medical advice, and please don't take it as such. I can't say I have a cure. I'm just sharing you with over the years what I've learned, what's working for me and actually working for a lot of people. So now that's being said, let's talk about what I do that's been helping me over these many years. As I said, chiropractic. I recommend finding a really good one. And before you all cringe, a good chiropractor will actually help you tremendously. And they're really knowledgeable about body and how the pain works in the body. As I said before, you tend to hunch over a lot more when you're in pain. And so your spine and everything in your neck and shoulders really get out of alignment. And that could put a lot of stress on your joints and your soft tissues. So I really highly recommend getting one. I work with a really good chiropractor who's also a neurologist who helps me with my brain injury. He always laughs at me if I wait too long. He's like, when I go in, he's like, "Oh, you want the works?" I'm like, "Yeah, just give me the works." But stretching, and again, lack of flexibility is really aging, and we tend to have a lot of tension build up. So I often recommend stretching often. And just a little tip, when you stretch, you do not want to bounce. You only stretch as far as to where you feel pulling, no pain. And please do not hold your breath when you stretch. You want to breathe normally. You don't want to hold your breath when you stretch at all. And just what's interesting, there's actually a little tip. You want to look for some gentle stretches on the internet, or you can, or your chiropractor or massage therapist can give you some good ones. But a little tip that I like to tell people is, if you are in your stretch, say you're stretching your leg or your back out, if you take a really deep breath, and then when you exhale, you will actually be able to stretch about an inch to inch and a half further. So just kind of a little tip for stretching. Exercise, I can't emphasize this enough. It's a huge factor in feeling better when dealing with fibromyalgia. And I know it can be really hard to get up when you hurt so bad and you have no energy and you just really feel awful. But believe me, exercise is just crucial to feeling better. I often recommend starting with walking. It's the easiest, cheapest, best way to start. And again, if all you have the energy to do is walk to the mailbox and back, and that's where you start. And then over time, you can slowly add more distance. Just remember, the more you sit there, the worse you will feel, and the worse you feel, the more you'll sit there. And most of you will come at me and say, "But I'm too exhausted." And I get that. Believe me, I do. It seems like you can barely go upstairs, let alone try and muster up enough exercise, energy to exercise. I think exhaustion is one of my biggest complaints about this problem. While I do believe in taking breaks and resting, I remember I would actually have to sit down and rest after 5 minutes of vacuuming or doing laundry. And if any of you guys have been out there, I think you can relate. But if you do not make exercise important, you are only going to go downhill. Again, meditation, I do some form of meditation daily. Oftentimes I just spend time with God and the Bible, but I also practice Tai Chi, which is kind of what they call moving meditation. And both are really crucial to my healing. Some people find journaling helpful. I say find what works for you and go for it. You don't have to be a master at it to begin, and it does take practice. There's a lot of really good information out there on meditation, on how to get started and stuff. So do some research and find what works for you. Okay, nutrition. Stay away from as much white products as you can. And what I'm talking about is the processed white products, like white flour, white sugar, etc. Those will make your symptoms much, much worse. If you do partake in like some type of excess sugar, say a birthday celebration, where maybe you eat some cake. I'm not advocating that you will never eat birthday cake again. I just say have your cake, but be smart about it. Smaller piece, that type of thing. Keep it for only special occasions, and add some fiber to your meal, which will help with the spike in sugar and your ultimate insulin levels. And I do this with my son. If I know he's going to a birthday party and he has hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, if he goes to a birthday party and I know he's going to be sucking down Kool-Aid and birthday cake, which just kind of makes me cringe a little bit, he obviously has to eat healthy before he goes. But I will give him B complex, B vitamins, and I will give him fiber before he goes. And what that does is help keep his sugar from spiking too high. Fiber is really good for anyone, especially diabetics. If they know they're going to have something that's going to spike their sugar, the fiber seems to absorb it and keeps that sugar from looking like a heartbeat in more of an arc curve. All right. Let's see. Stay away from the soda pop, which we call liquid inflammation. Pop is liquid inflammation. It's pure and simple. And I know it tastes great, and I know it's addictive, but depends on how bad you want to feel better. Sports drinks like Gatorade are awful because of the chemicals. Crystal Light, those type of powders that you add for flavoring, huge problem. Please stay away from them. And some fruit juices, even though it says fruit juice, doesn't mean it's healthy. It's just too much sugar. So what does that leave to drink? Water, and plenty of it. I suggest drinking half your body weight in ounces every day. So like, for example, if you're 100 pounds, you would drink 50 ounces of water per day. And you can get reusable water bottles and pre-measure out for the day so you know to stay on track. You can drink some coffee and tea. I just recommend doing it in moderation. A little caffeine is fine, but you don't want to be swimming in it. I do recommend green tea, however, because it's really helpful at boosting energy, and it usually doesn't have a lot of caffeine in it. Lots and lots of fresh fruits and vegetables. You want to eat the fruit, not drink it like in a juice. And I also recommend lean protein. Now, I don't recommend total vegetarian and, being a total vegetarian, but if you are, just make sure you're getting enough protein. Many people do not consume enough protein, and that can lead to a lot of weakness and a lot of fatigue. So, and I've actually come across a lot of vegetarians who were very unhealthy, and I'm not against being a vegetarian. I'm against those who try to adopt that type of lifestyle without really doing their homework. And there's a lot of doctors will tell you they cringe when vegetarians come in because very few of them are doing it correctly. And most of them are extremely deficient in protein. So make sure you're doing your homework and that you're doing it healthy. And I'm not advocating eating meat all the time either. But just like, a good doctor will tell you, moderation on everything. And there's literally a ton of great recipes out on the internet. Just that incorporates a lot of good vegetables and fruit and stuff. So you just common sense. Less processed food and junk, more of the fresh fruits and vegetables and lean protein. And of course, we actually have a 7-day gentle cleanse diet that we use to help people with. I highly recommend starting with this because you kind of want to clean out the junk and make room for the good stuff. And it's a really good way to get your energy level back. Most people who do the 7-day healthy cleanse, they feel an extremely surge in energy. And that's really a great catapult into healthier living. So it's really a wonderful thing to do. I highly recommend it. And you can feel better in days, not weeks or months. And if you guys are interested in that, you're welcome to ask me about that later. So just remember, don't look at food as the enemy. Learn to work with your body and kind of give it what it needs to be healthy. All right. And then supplementation. Most of us know it's really impossible to get everything we need nutritionally wise from our diet nowadays. Maybe 100 years ago we could, but just not now. Our soil is just really depleted of nutrients due to just over farming and poor commercial farming practices. The use of so many dangerous chemicals in our food makes them really, a lot of them, unsafe to eat. I highly recommend eating as much organic as you can afford and such, and have access to, just to kind of avoid taxing your body anymore. Your body's already under attack if you're fighting a disease like fibromyalgia. And if you start adding chemicals from some of these foods to it, it's just going to overtax it, and your body's not going to be able to handle it very well. Really, food has to be picked before it's ripe to make it to the store shelves before it goes bad. So a lot of these fruits and vegetables don't have a lot of nutrients in them because they weren't given enough time on the plant to absorb them. And we lead really, really busy lives. I have not met anyone that is not busy. And it's really impossible to eat right at every single meal every day. And So really supplementation is not an option. It's actually a requirement, especially if you're dealing with a health issue like fibromyalgia. You just cannot get all those nutrients you need just from diet alone. And really, truly, a single multivitamin just doesn't have enough in it to fulfill those extra nutrients. So what do I use? And if you guys know me, you know that I use Shaklee's line of vitamins. And I will tell you that I have tried many other vitamins before. None of them worked. And when I tried Shaklee, somebody's like, well, try Shaklee. I'm like, I've tried all these vitamins. And they're like, just try them. I'm like, fine, I'll try them so you'll shut up, right? I think any of us have been there. It's like, if I could just get this person to leave me alone. And they were like, well, if you don't like them, you get your money back. And I'm like, okay, cool. I fully expected to get my money back. Well, I couldn't believe how fast they work. Really, because I like to do my own research, I researched the company, and I was shocked to find out that they do so much research and testing to not only make sure that their ingredients work, but that they're safe. They test the raw ingredients for contaminants before processing, during the process to make sure like nothing bad is getting in through the machinery, and then they test afterwards to make sure it's free from like contaminants. And what's interesting, they test to make sure that what it says on the bottle is actually in the product. I trust Shaklee, and they're really the only ones that have worked for me, and they've only worked for a lot of other people. I have had many people say that they've tried vitamins just like me and saw little to no help, but when we worked with them and get them on a program and stuff and had them switch to Shaklee and basically use the protocol that I use, they saw huge results, and quickly, I might add. So anyway, here's a list of what works for me. What's great about the nutrition and supplementation is, unlike medications that have side effects, what I found is nutrition and supplements actually have side benefits. Vital E. Vital E is a multivitamin, multi-mineral. I highly, highly recommend always starting with a good multi. It is your foundation that everything else is built on. Many normally healthy people do fine with a multi, but if you have fibromyalgia or any other health condition, your body just really needs more nutrition than just the basics. And they can't just get everything into that tablet because it would just be huge. You just really need more than the multi. Protein, I can't stress this enough. Body needs protein, but I recommend more vegetable protein than animal protein simply because vegetable protein breaks down easier. It has far less fat, and it's just really easier absorbed by the body. Soy protein, I believe, is the way to go. And I just did a talk on the myths of soy because a lot of people say, well, I read soy was bad for you, or I can't take it because I'm a cancer patient or a cancer survivor. The benefits of soy really far outweigh the bad. So unless you technically have an allergic reaction to soy, which I believe less than 8% of the world's population is technically allergic to soy. Most people are finding out they're not allergic to the soy. They're allergic to the chemicals that company used to extract the soy. I mean, there are a few people who are technically allergic to any soy, but they're very few and far between. And this is a whole webinar in itself, so I won't bother you with that. But I can't stress enough the benefits of protein. B complex. I know some people said if they were on a desert island and could only have one product, it would be alfalfa. No, for me, it'd be B complex. I can't recommend it enough for fibromyalgia patients. I believe I wouldn't say this alone, but this was the most important nutrient that I added that made the biggest difference. It's the one that really helps with the pain and the numbness and the weakness. I really believe fibromyalgia is a deficiency of some type of B vitamins, and they play some key role. I do not recommend taking a single B vitamin by itself. I've heard people getting B12 shots and stuff. I do not believe in that because what happens is B complex works better together as a family, and if you take too much of one, it will throw off the balance of others. And we've all seen the real cheap B vitamins where they have like 3,000% of riboflavin. Well, that's because riboflavin is really cheap to manufacture, and they have no biotin. Well, if you take that, that's going to really screw with your system. You do not want to take too much of one B vitamin and not enough of the other. And there's a really crazy, complicated, strict way of trying to figure out what that formula is. And I really trust Shaklee because they've done the homework to know, okay, in order to do the right ratio, we have to have so much of this one and so much of that one. And I really believe that's why Shaklee's B vitamins worked when the other ones like I got from GNC just did not, and it actually made me feel sick. So keep that in mind. If you could only take one nutrient for fibromyalgia, I would highly recommend B-complex. Calcium, magnesium really are helpful at getting you to help relax. I know a lot of fibromyalgia patients can't fall asleep or they can't stay asleep. And what's great about these calcium, magnesium is they help your muscles to relax and just help you to sleep. It really helps you when you're feeling tense and hurting. And what I do is I chew like 4 at a time right before bed. Stress relief complex. A lot of moms will say it's their best friend. I heard a dear lady, Barb Lagoni, who many of you may know, say that it turns all women into Mother Teresa, and you take one for every child you have. No. This product is really awesome. I can't imagine life without it. In addition to the mental stress it can help with, I think it really helps with physical pain. Again, my husband had he had a back injury and he's got several discs that are fused, and so he's full of hardware. He uses it along with the calcium, magnesium, and the B vitamins and other things when he's hurting real bad, not because he's stressing out, but there's just something about it that helps his back muscles release. But what's really great about stress relief complex is I always tell people, they're like, well, what's it like? And I said, well, it's kind of like taking a muscle relaxer and a Valium, but without the side effects. You just don't seem to care about what's bothering you. It's not like you're drugged out or in a fog or phased out or flaky. You're actually, whatever was bothering you just doesn't bother you anymore, and you just notice your muscles aren't as tense. And you can drive, you can operate machinery, you can do what your normal activities. And people say, well, I don't know. And I'm like, well, I race cars. Yeah, my husband, son, and I both all three of us race cars. And if I'm really stressing out because there's just too much to do and I've got an important race coming up, I will actually take this before or during a race. And so it doesn't affect me whatsoever, and I don't have to worry about being tested for some banned substance either. So just let you know about that. Optiflora, probiotic. I really believe that gut health is really important to our overall health. Adding probiotics to help heal our gut, especially if you've been taking a lot of medications, is really important to healing. There's a program I use and recommend to those who take a lot of medications or have taken a lot of medications. And so the liver really needs to heal from that. And there's a program that I use that I'll be happy to share with you. If you're interested, just get with me. And then alfalfa. And alfalfa helps with so many things. It's just, they call it the powerhouse of goodness. It helps with joint pain. It helps with stiffness. It helps with energy, bloating, you name it. And basically, because its roots go really, really deep into the earth, it's able to soak up nutrients that just other plants can't reach. Now, there's other supplements that I use based on my age, like the omega-3s, which are really good for inflammation. And then I use some immune boosting ones, especially during the cold and flu season. But these are the main ones I recommend to fibromyalgia patients to start with. And so anyone who comes to me with that, this is the program that I suggest. All right, now I'm not going to read all these. I will keep these up here during questions and stuff, but sometimes knowing that you're not by yourself, that you're not the only one suffering, really can go a long way, because this disease is very isolating. You can't tell it. Unlike some of the other horrible diseases out there, a lot of people don't know what it is. they've never heard of it. They can't even pronounce it. You don't look any different. And it can be really devastating and hurtful. So hearing from other people that they suffer just like you can go so far. And I showed Brian here in his story, and you might be just kind of scanning it while you're listening, but Brian is a man. Normally we're seeing women, but meds, if we're being ridiculed, just think how a man might be. Because, you know, men are supposed to be strong and not have any issues and, you know, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. I can only imagine how he must have felt, because the doctor basically told him that's just something you're going to have to live with. And he had a lot of problems with nausea and an upset stomach and stuff. So he was constantly vomiting, and his pain was off the charts for him. So, and he started a specific vitamin program along with some nutrition and diet and exercise and stuff. And it didn't take him long where he wasn't having the headaches and stuff anymore as well. And Gina, and again, this is a long story and I'm not going to read it for you, but Gina, hers started out more like a flu. Remember how we talked in the beginning, how some of these symptoms onset after an injury or a long illness? Well, Gina had the flu that just would not go away. And it got to the point where she got over the flu, but the flu-like symptoms never went away. And that's when she finally was, you know, at first diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, and then it was determined she had fibromyalgia. And she was to the point where I was, where she was just willing to try anything. And so she started on a program and she felt better in days. So she had been dealing with this, I think, for like 14 years. And so she had been trying to deal with this for 14 years. And so to feel better in days, not weeks, not months, but days, was just amazing to her. And again, if anybody wants to read these, I can go back to them and stuff. But she started taking Shaklee and improving her diet and everything. And she says it, you know, probably took several months to fully feel that full effect. But when you feel better in days, that's a great catapult into saying, I can do this. And then, of course, Donna. And again, I'm going to share these slides, so you don't have to like read them all right now. But basically, Donna, she was like, couldn't remember when she felt well. She was always nauseated, dizzy, had constant headaches, extreme fatigue and weakness. And she had kids. And think about that. And there was a time where she would just collapse in tears. And the doctor, of course, dismissed her complaints, sent her home with some painkillers and all kinds of drugs. And he was prescribing prednisone. And that's an awful thing to be on. And she had tried supplements from GNC and just didn't feel any difference. And then when she began taking Shaklee and following a different protocol, it took her about 2 months where she started to feel a little bit better, which encouraged her to keep going. And then now she feels a lot better and feels like her prayers were answered. Okay, so now what? We're getting close to the end. Hang in there. What I recommend is you take what you learn, study all you can, learn all you can, because I really believe knowledge is power. Talk to others. You know, don't just take my word for it. Talk to others and find out what they're doing. Learn ways that they're using to cope and to heal and stuff. And then talk to us. I mean, we're open. If someone invited you to this, go to them, ask them. You know, no one's going to judge you. No one's going to belittle you here. And if they do, shame on them and find someone else. But no, most people will not belittle you. They are genuinely concerned. Even if they don't completely understand what you're going through, tell them. Tell them what you're going through. Tell them what you are looking for, and tell them what you're currently doing. And see if they can come up with a protocol to help you. And what we do is we work with doctors. We don't work against them. We will work with your doctor, and we're very transparent. If your doctor has questions, call us. And if we don't have the answer, we can go to Shaklee Corporate and get answers straight from their doctors and stuff. So we work as a partnership, as a team, and not as an enemy. So just keep that in mind, because again, your doctor's your best source of medical advice. But remember, you're responsible for your health, not your doctor. All right. So if things aren't working for you and you're really open to looking at some different options, and even if it's working in conjunction with medication or in place of, if they're not working for you, then just make an appointment with us to talk more in detail. All right. So my goal is to share what I've learned. I hope it was some help. And just like that dear friend said to me many years ago, have you ever thought about the role nutrition plays in how you feel? And are you open to learning of possible ways that could help? I really, really credit her and her just simple kindness of asking me that when I probably was breaking down in tears. She probably saved my life. So I remember one doctor who I hated, because back then you had to see your family doctor to get like a referral to a specialist. And I'd seen, I don't know, countless specialists. So every time I had to see a new specialist, I had to go back to this doctor to get the referral. And I hated him. He just really, I never liked him. And people are like, well, why'd you stick with him? Because he had like, knew everything about me. It was just easier to stick with him. And all I needed was a referral. And I went in there one time and I just broke down and I said, no one is helping me. And you got to remember, I'm in my early to mid 20s. And he was always his bedside manner just was horrible. But he looked at me, and I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he says, if you do not take a stand and you do not find what works for you, you will die. And he stood up, turned around, and walked out. He didn't offer me any consolation. He didn't say, oh, you poor thing, which is not, he knew that's not what I needed. I needed that slap in the face. And I can't slam the guy for that. What he did was lit a fire under me. And be forever grateful for him. So anyway, thank you for taking all this time out to learn more about ways that you can really battle fibromyalgia and win. And I'm going to put my website up here. And again, if someone invited you, please get with them. If you're new, please visit our website. And what you want to do, it's not case sensitive. You can just type it in, youtobhealthy.com. And when you get there, you'll see my little picture with the title up there. And I'll try and post like the link to it down in the comments if I get this uploaded. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, it'll say contact me. And if you click that, a form will pop up where you can just put your contact info in and just say, hey, I want to talk more about fibromyalgia. And then just tell me, how do you want to be contacted? Do you want me to email you, call you? Call you is probably better because that way we can converse back and forth. And then tell me like certain time or day and we'll figure that in. And if you mention that you got it from this webinar, we'll waive the consultation fee. All right. And that is it. And I'm going to find you guys and I am going to, let's see if I can unmute. Is there any questions? And if there's not, that's okay. I know there's not many people on. All right, if there's no questions right now, if you think of one later, you're welcome to contact me. And I will try to upload the recording of this to Facebook. If it doesn't work, contact me and let me know that you can't find it, and I'll see if I can get it to you, all right? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and we wish you all the best. Take care.